All right, so this video is just going to give you a brief overview of all the materials that you have available to you in this assignment. That is going to be your book report for quarter three, the quarter three argument book. It's going to be something totally different that you've never done before. And I know you're looking at it through the teacher side of the screen, but you'll be able to find all these materials on your own in your own screen. I do really love this assignment. I think that it does a good job of forcing you to think about your book in a different way. You really can't do a good job in it unless you've read your book thoroughly and really understand the argument. Basically, you're going to write a letter directly to the author of your book, and within that letter, you are going to make an argument. You are going to show whether you really liked the book a lot, which would be a yes paper, whether you didn't like the book at all, which would be a no, or whether you find some sort of middle ground that is more for or more against the author in terms of their argument and ideas. What you have in front of you are all of the handouts that you could possibly need. We'll go through this one together here briefly in a moment. This one offers you business letter format, so most of you probably have not written a business letter for yourselves before. You might have received some in the mail but just not paid attention to it. I think that learning how to do this sort of snail mail task is a really good idea because you're still going to be occasionally needing to write these, and you are still occasionally going to be reading them. So following the conventions of that particular style is a good idea. You will have to find your author's address, and here's a little video I made in order to help you do that. And then I have two samples from the year 2023 that you can take a look at as guideposts for you, both in letter format and content. So if we open this document up, it basically just rolls through all the things that you need to know, right? You have to use correct business letter format, which means you have to know the address of the publishing company that you're sending it to. It's not acceptable for you to just find an email. Even if they want you to send an email, I want you to find a snail mail address. We are going to, at the very least, pretend like they're sending this letter out, or maybe even some of you will be sending the letter out. So therefore, you don't want your conventions errors to be a problem. So that's another reason why you need to do a really good job with proofreading. We already basically went over the content. The two things that you're going to have to do in the content of the letter are indicate where you stand in terms of the author's argument. And so that's one of these patterns, right? Yes, no, or one of the forms of the okay, but. And I also want you to incorporate a quotation sandwich into your letter. This becomes one of the trickier parts of it because you guys have now gotten so good at putting quotation sandwiches into research-based papers that now you have to reset your brain for audience and purpose here. Because what you're doing is you're repeating an author's words back to them. So I always describe this moment as like if you're a singer-songwriter, those moments when you're giving a concert and you see the singer-songwriter just sort of stop and close their eyes and take it in, it's because they're listening to their audience sing their own words back to them. It's almost like a spiritual experience for the songwriters. I'm not sure it's going to be that deep here, but at the same time, it's really neat for them to see how well you have read the book by taking a portion of that book and repeating it back to themselves. However, you cannot treat it like it's a research paper because it's not. It's a personal letter to an author who created the very words that you're quoting. So you need to keep that in mind. First of all, you're not going to address them in third person. It's not going to be Mr. Johnson writes when you are writing a letter to Mr. Johnson. So keep that in mind. You have to change your signal phrase around a lot, and you don't need to put a citation, which I know freaks you guys out. There's no need to put page number. I mean, you can if you want to. I'm not completely opposed to that, but that's just not necessary because it's not a research paper that you're writing. You are quoting an idea back to the person who said it for the purposes of reminding them of the idea that you want to talk about in your letter. And I think that the samples do a really nice job of showing you how to do that. If anybody wants to send this out for real, there's a couple of steps that you have to go through. First of all, you're not allowed to send it out for real until after I've graded it, because in my grading process, I'm going to grade your conventions. And you need to fix up your conventions because you're probably going to have some errors. And like I said before, you don't want to send this out in real life if you have errors. If you do want to send it out, then I will, of course, offer a treat for that. But I also want to say that in years past, I usually have authors that will write back because I think this is such an unusual assignment that it doesn't happen very often. And one year I remember multiple people read the same book and the author wrote back to all three or four of them, which was really cool. So the procedures for how to do that will come after I get the letter graded, so keep that in mind. Let's see. The rubric is here. It's attached to yours. You're going to get a grade for your ability to write a persuasive argument. I think I'm going to change the word persuasion here to match what's actually in your standards-based gradebook. So you have to make an argument. I'm going to evaluate your ability to write quotation sandwiches, which, remember, if you're proficient, then it's going to be functional, but maybe a little bit awkward, considering that it still sounds a little more like a research paper than it does writing to the author. If you want the advanced level, then you want to show that you can shift gears with that audience and purpose. Otherwise, the developing level and the beginning level are the exact same as we've been working with throughout all your other assignments that assess quotation sandwiches. And then this is one of those places where I give you a grade for discourse communities, because this is a very different type of discourse community. Discourse communities are just groups of people that you're in communication with, and so writing to an author is a very different type of discourse community. So either you're going to do what I say and you're going to do it well, or you're not, and you're going to get another shot to fix it. Then, of course, your professionalism with your conventions. This is going to mirror more like your college essay, and remember that was a little bit harsher because we're sending it out potentially to a real-life audience. So keep that in mind. You don't want your conventions grade to kind of sink you there at the beginning, but all of the rest of the assignments that you do after this, including your summative ones, are not going to be as harshly graded as this one is. Let me think if there's anything else that I should tell you about. You can find the due date in the assignment. I'm planning to use this video from year to year, so I'm not going to say exactly when it's due, but you'll be able to tell when you look at your assignment. So anyway, if you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, you probably will have roughly a week to get this done, so there's lots of time to ask me questions. Good luck.